The English version, rewritten v4.0, let's make things feel raw, deeply raw. What if for your entire life, you've been operating on a hidden blueprint without even knowing it? This isn't about black magic. It's nothing mystical. It's much closer. It's a part of you that you carry inside, that syncs with your breath, that wears your face as a mask. It is your hidden self, the unseen force that's really in control. The part lurking behind every irrational impulse, steering every choice that blows things up just when you thought you were winning. Can you sense it? That unending presence you can't quite name, but that is always there. Have you ever, in total silence, heard a voice in your mind that isn't you, yet sounds identical? That whisper that says, "You're going to mess this up." That convinces you no one genuinely cares, that you're a liability, that you're either way too much or never enough. Do you see the setup? That voice isn't trying to hurt you, it's trying to protect you. But its protection comes from a place of deep injury, and you've confused that injury for your core identity. You've grown comfortable living on the verge of an emotional breakdown, not understanding why, repeating routines that pull you under, derailing the things you treasure, silencing what causes you pain, and faking that you're okay, while a part of you is screaming for you to just stop. Have you ever questioned what you do when no one is watching? Why you get lost in dark thoughts you'd never say out loud? Why you fall into the same damaging loops, even knowing they're shattering you? This is not about a lack of will. It's not about being weak. It's a code. It's a flare that you've dismissed for so long it had to become a roar, because your spirit can no longer be held together by quick fixes. Now, I'm going to tell you something you might feel isn't for you. If you sense you don't belong, that the world affects you too profoundly, that you're on a non-stop emotional ride, it's because your presence isn't average. It's exceptionally rare, intensely powerful, and that creates a problem. Not for you, but for everyone else, because individuals like you are never ignored. Your energy is felt before your arrival. Your simple being there can make others uneasy. It provokes them. It snaps them out of their haze because you hold something primal, something dense, a truth so deeply buried by others they've forgotten it even exists. And this is where the real secret lies. That energy, that perception, that intensity, they are not flaws in your design. They are your internal warning lights, flashing to show you that something vital in your world has been begging for your focus. And rather than paying attention, you've numbed it with activity. You've built systems to prevent real thought. You've crammed your days with noise to drown out the fierce whisper from your inner world. But it will not vanish, because it is not something to be removed. It is something to be integrated. The more you push it away, the more it morphs into urges you can't control, into dependencies, into damaging connections, into relentless anxiety, into actions you can't explain, but also can't stop, because they are your hidden self trying to rescue you. And do you realize what the most tragic part of this is? No one ever showed you how to interpret your pain as a signal. They showed you how to hide it, to be ashamed of it, to cover it with work, to quiet it with hollow reassurances. Yet here you stand, and your hidden self is still here. In fact, it's standing just over your shoulder right now, observing you, waiting, not to crush you, but for you to finally give it your full attention. This video isn't for those who are content with being asleep. It's for people who, like you, have begun to suspect that the very thing that shatters them is also their guide. We're not here to offer you easy fixes or cheap slogans. We are going to go into the places no one wants to explore: your patterns, your urges, your terrors, your drive to please, your feeling of being hollow, your rage. We are going to translate the secret dialect of your internal storm, because your storm is not without reason. It has a logic, it has a history, and it is magnificent. Your hurt is not your opponent, it is your compass. Do you have the courage to face what you've always run from? Because after you see it, you cannot pretend you didn't, and that is when you must decide. Will you continue to run from who you are, Or will you finally grab a flashlight and venture into the cellar where you've stored all the real parts of you? Because only in that place, within the ruins of your own denial, your true strength is waiting. Quiet, dark, massive, and starved for your honesty. Excellent. I'll record this section from the beginning in a standard format without poetic breaks. Here is the video's continuation, smooth, strong, keeping the immersive feel with a new angle tied to the central concept. Let's discuss a topic most people avoid, the discomfort of true awareness. I'm not referring to a moral compass or the ability to tell right from wrong. I am talking about that sharp, unyielding consciousness that demands you see your true self, the kind that makes you evaluate everything while others seem to glide along the surface, unbothered. And I get it, it's draining, because when you perceive more, you feel more. And when you feel more, you have to create defenses just to stay afloat. The issue is that these defenses are what ultimately sever your connection to you. Have you seen this play out? You start showing behaviors you can't even decipher. You pull back from people for no clear reason. You get hooked on things that bring you no joy. You torpedo your own success just as it's taking off. But underneath all of that, there is no insanity. There is only a brilliant clarity that hasn't been properly processed. Because when you possess this level of perception, reality hits you differently. It bypasses all the normal filters, arriving raw. Every single word, action, and moment of quiet gets processed through countless layers. And this results in an overload that most cannot grasp. This is the origin of compulsive loops. They don't come from a deficit, but from an excess. You aren't broken, you're just processing too much. Your brain is working harder. Your body is holding more. Your soul is absorbing more until it hits a limit. And that's when the escape route materializes, the repeated action, the fixation, the quick exit. But here's the key. In that instant of release, when you consume, drink, or zone out, your system finds relief and flags it as the solution, even if it's tearing you apart. And since you are conscious, you recognize this, but you feel powerless because your mind doesn't follow reason when it's desperate for emotional comfort. This is why the repetition is not a conscious decision. It's an automated response. And the more you attempt to dominate it with pure will, the more elusive it becomes. Because what you need is not stricter rules. What you need is deeper empathy, greater presence, and more permission to experience what you have been pushing down for decades. And do you know what complicates this even more? While you're battling this inner tempest, on the outside, life looks completely normal. You have your regular days, your peaceful moments, your social persona, and that makes you question yourself. Am I making this up? Am I being overly dramatic? Why does this impact me so much if my life is objectively fine? This is the mental trap, the story you tell yourself when you learn to invalidate your own hurt. But hurt does not require a reason or a past to show up. It just is, and that is all that matters. Now listen closely, this is vital. The more advanced your emotional awareness, the more clever your methods of self-avoidance become. You no longer turn to obvious vices or extreme behaviors. Now, it's just about being constantly busy, managing everyone else's needs but your own, analyzing every feeling, and saying, "I've handled that." When you really just stuffed it under a pile of theories. Your escape methods are classier now, but just as harmful. And this leads to the most difficult idea yet. Your hidden self is not just built from your flaws. It's also built from everything you won't let yourself admit you need, from the cravings you condemn, from the anger you wear as tranquility, from the desire to be witnessed, cared for, and accepted that you learn to hide to appear strong. The more you refuse this, the more powerful your unconscious drive to obtain it grows. The problem isn't a lack of discipline, it's a lack of permission. Permission to feel without a filter, to be angry without feeling bad, to weep without a defense, to say, "I need something," without apology, because your patterns aren't driven by a simple craving for satisfaction. They are fueled by an emotional starvation, by needs that were never met, by wounds that are still raw under decades, old scar tissue. Do you want the reason why ending the cycle is so challenging? Because your suffering, while it destroys you, is also a known quantity. It's expected, it can be managed, whereas feeling good, being calm, and true intimacy feel foreign to you, awkward, and questionable. This is why you sabotage good things, not due to a lack of intelligence or worth, but because your entire emotional system, trained over years, believes that positivity is a threat. It leaves you open. It makes you unguarded. You simply don't know how to exist in peace. And we arrive at the very center of it all. Your programming doesn't crave joy. It craves safety. And if you learn that safety is found in turmoil, then you will seek out turmoil repeatedly. This is why letting go is hard for you. This is why you are drawn to connections with people who are not right for you. This is why you get stuck depending on things you despise, because your physical system registers the familiar as secure, even when it causes pain. So, this isn't about having more willpower. This is about a profound emotional reset. And that reset is not achieved through aggression. It is achieved when you begin to look honestly at everything you've run from. When you begin to create internal safety zones where you can feel without judgment. When you give up trying to be something and instead start to ask yourself, which part of me is crying out to be seen? What feeling am I pushing away? What urge am I judging so intensely that I'm making it stronger? Your perception, your power, your ability to experience the world with such depth are not system malfunctions. They are the results of a psyche that had to figure out how to endure in a hostile world. And that very same psyche is now asking for something new, not just to survive, but to recover, to unify, to come home to yourself without the disguises, without the buffers, without the rationalizations, with all the rawness, fury, gentleness, and turmoil that involves. Because ultimately, the only truly radical act is to be yourself without the anesthetic. And that is the most difficult journey, but it is also the only one that will set you free. And just as you start to grasp that the point isn't to eliminate your urges, but to decode them, another truth surfaces that throws you completely off balance. You are not just dealing with your own feelings. You are also carrying feelings that do not belong to you. Invisible emotional legacies, weights that you didn't create, but that can end with you if you commit to doing the work. Because yes, and I know this sounds intense, many of the feelings that flood you did not begin with your life experiences, but with those of your mother, your father, your grandparents, your entire lineage. And the craziest part is that this is all contained not in your thoughts, but in your body. That anxiety that comes out of nowhere, that deep sense of loss you can't trace back to anything, that guilty feeling you get when you put yourself first. At times, they aren't yours. They are subconscious loyalties you adopted without noticing, like your body became a storage unit for handed down emotions. You don't learn about this at school. You won't read about it in those glossy self-improvement books. But you feel it inside. You experience it viscerally every time you try to move your life forward and an unseen force holds you back. Has that ever been you? You commit to making a genuine shift. You begin practicing self-care, establishing limits, using the word no. And then it hits you a wave of unease, like you are betraying some code, like you have violated a rule you never signed up for. That is known as emotional inheritance. And it isn't just tied to your personal timeline. It's woven into your ancestry and how your family structure learned to cope and how your heroes suppressed, went quiet, and powered through. You received that blueprint for existing. And now, when you try to act differently, your whole system flags it as a threat. And that's the point where so many people quit, because they think the discomfort means they are on the wrong path, when it truly means they are breaking free. Progress doesn't feel like liberation initially. It feels like a betrayal, as you're snapping unseen agreements that maintained a broken but steady equilibrium. That's the reason why advancing hurts. Not because you are making a mistake, but because you are the first in your family tree to do it in a new way. And that comes at a cost. You will experience loneliness. You will be misunderstood. You will think you're losing your mind. But it is not a breakdown. It is a breakthrough. It is an evolution. It is a deep emotional purge. And there is no applause for that. Nobody sees it. But you can feel it. You are aware of it. It's happening in your very cells. So, what are you supposed to do when everything you thought you were begins to crumble? First, you must recognize that this is not a conclusion. It is a starting point, the very instant when your identity starts to form again, from what is authentic, from who you are, not from what you were conditioned to be. And from here, another equally demanding journey begins, rebuilding your sense of self, but not the flimsy kind built on accomplishments, likes, or external praise. I'm talking about emotional self-worth, the kind that comes from knowing all of yourself and still picking yourself, the kind that holds steady when you stumble, the kind that has your back when nobody else does. And now for the really fascinating bit. The majority of us have a self concept shaped by how we were seen by others, parents, mentors, partners, peers. Over the years, that concept hardens into a prison because we begin living just to protect it, not from a place of self-love, but from a terror of being rejected. And that becomes your next great frontier, shattering that self-image, to cease being the person you think others want, and to begin being the person you truly need. This isn't simple, because that image is deeply linked to your feeling of value. If you were taught that your worth comes from being a caregiver, from being quiet, from being no trouble, from achieving, then anytime you prioritize yourself, guilt will surface. But that guilt is not real. You have no obligation to be anyone but you. You are not on this planet to manage the emotional state of others at the expense of your own. And if your presence, your vibe, your power makes some people shift in their seats, then let them. You did not come here for comfort. You came here to awaken, to change, and to break old patterns. And listen closely now, because this is aimed at your nervous system. You no longer have to be on high alert constantly. You don't need to predict every outcome to shield yourself from hurt. You are not in that danger anymore. But your system hasn't gotten the message. That is why it's still on guard. That is why you live with a tightness in your shoulders. That is why you can't get restful sleep. That is why you eat when you aren't hungry or lose your appetite to stress. Your body was taught that letting your guard down is the same as being defenseless. And the real work is right here. Retraining your system to know that it doesn't need to fight everything anymore. This doesn't happen just with mindfulness apps or reciting things in the mirror. It happens through consistent actions of self-care, with unwavering boundaries, with quiet moments where you tell yourself, I am okay. I don't need to perform. I don't need to justify myself. I don't need to rescue anyone. And yes, initially, you will feel a pang of guilt, a sense of emptiness, maybe even a wave of sorrow you can't explain. But this isn't a sign that you're off track. It's a sign that you are purifying. You are shedding identities you've worn since you were a child. You're putting down burdens that were never yours to carry. And when you operate from that new place, things shift. Your urges soften. Your compulsions fade. Not because you battled them into submission, but because they are no longer necessary. You are no longer on the run. You are finally home in your own skin. You are tuning in. You are acting from a place of wholeness, not from a deficit. And that's the part they never tell you. When you master the art of being present with yourself, so many of your internal wars simply cease. Your intensity doesn't vanish, it alchemizes. It turns into creative drive, clear purpose, and fierce authenticity. It's no longer a blade that cuts you. It is a light that shows you the way. And you stop being your own enemy. You stop viewing your sensitivity as a weakness. And you finally see it for what it has always been: a portal, a guide, a powerful method for experiencing the world and remaking it. And that process of remaking begins inside you, right here, in this moment, where you can't fake it anymore, where your soul is crying out for what's real, where your body is pleading for calm. where your own story is finally ready to be rewritten from a place of awareness and not from a place of injury. So don't hide it. Don't ignore it. Don't numb it. Look at it. Hear it. Hold it. Because within the very part of you that you're most afraid of is everything you require to be free. And you're already there, even if you don't feel it yet. And now that we're at this point, before we move on, I want to share something with you. Our book, The Formula of Awakening, is now out. Do you sense that there's a part of you that's ready to emerge, but you're unsure how to begin? Then I want to invite you to change your entire way of thinking and, in turn, your entire way of living. Find out who you have the potential to be. Begin your journey today. The link for the ebook is in the top pinned comment on this video. Get your copy now while it's at a special price. With that, let's get back to the video. And it's at this stage that it becomes truly fascinating. Because right when you believe you've figured out what's going on inside you, just as you start to untangle the emotional mess you've been carrying, something even more profound emerges. Something most people will never find. Underneath all your personal struggles, your urges, your void, your anxiety, and your chase for approval, there's an immense power waiting to be activated. A power that has nothing to do with what they've told you is self-worth or confidence. It isn't about looking successful or being a flawless human. It's something far more primal, far more authentic: your ability to emotionally support yourself without relying on anyone else's opinion, without needing to feel good constantly, without pushing yourself to be a better version of you every single day. And when you tap into that, when you begin to live from that core, the entire illusion shatters. Life is no longer a frantic dash to prove you're worthy. Your connections transform. Your professional life transforms. The very rhythm of your breath transforms. You no longer have to push so hard. You're no longer desperately trying to belong. You start to build spaces where you are simply allowed to be. And in the modern world, that alone is a revolutionary act. But there is a final illusion, the most subtle one of all. And it's this: believing that now that you have the knowledge, you will not stumble again. Believing that information grants you immunity, that you'll never have another moment of doubt, never engage in sabotage, or never try to escape yourself. My friend, you are still going to fall, because this journey doesn't lead to perfection. It leads to honesty. You will fall back into old loops. You will feel that anxiety again. You will have days when nothing you feel makes any sense. And that is perfectly fine, because this time you don't abandon yourself. This time you witness yourself. You see the pattern and you decide to choose you again, over and over. That is the change that separates a life driven by autopilot from a life driven by truth. It's not about everything magically becoming easy. It's about you no longer believing you must always be at your best to earn love, respect, or a moment of peace. It's you finally allowing yourself to be a person, whole, inconsistent, powerful, and sovereign. And now we're at the very end, the part that only those who've stuck around this long can fully grasp. Your hidden self is not what is holding you back. Your hidden self is what is forcing you to see. Every time you feel overwhelmed, every time you hit a wall, every time you feel you have nothing left, that is not your breaking point. That is your body declaring, "Stop pushing me aside. I need you to listen. I am ready to heal." And when you finally do it, when you choose to breathe with the feeling instead of running from it, that is the moment your inner transformation ignites. That is the moment your real life starts. So, if you are still here, if these words have resonated with you, as if they were meant only for you, I want to tell you something. This is not by chance. You are prepared. You are standing right on the line where a part of you refuses to go back. And if this video sparked something inside you, if it offered you a key, a moment of clarity, or even just the emotional jolt you needed, then subscribe. But not for my channel. Do it for yourself. Because in this space, we don't do surface level talk. Here, we will continue to uncover, to deconstruct, and to speak the truths that most people are afraid to even think about. and I want to see you in the comments. If you genuinely felt this message, type, "I am no longer afraid of my hidden self." This will let me know that you stayed, that you are not hiding, that you are seeing clearly. And now, finally, I'm signing off. But not with some generic closing line, not with a neat little summary. I'm signing off with one last question that will follow you long after any piece of advice. Who could you become if you finally stopped being your own opposition? I'll see you in the next deep dive or in your next awakening. The choice is yours.